done by an organizer and a participant. I actually arrived here at 6:55.
That's true.
Yeah. And I was held up by the participants in my car. I drove myself here, by the way. I have no personal assistant. No, I'm a driver. So you have to hold the organizers to that standard.
Thank you.
Yes, next question.
All right, thank you so much. The next question is going to be from Dr. Obilo.
Thank you. As my brother here said, we thank you for the courage. I've been in this country now 40 years, and I've been a doctor. I'm the president of Nigeria Healthcare Foundation. I'm the chairman of Nigeria Medical Association in New Jersey. And I think everybody here knows who I am for what we're doing in Nigeria. July 6th, every year for the past 15 years, we go home, take care of those that have been neglected. For me, I get emotional when I think about my country and how bad that country has become. My question is that the voice you have now, how long this voice will continue? Is this voice, are we going to continue hearing the same voice, the same mind, the same expectation, or is going to be quenched by those who come around you and become the same character that you criticize? And the next question is that, how bad do you feel about the death rate of Nigerians? That we can't even have small hospitals that take care of our own. All the ministers come here to be treated, leaving the Nigerians to die. As you said, if you're on the plane, you see a lot of Nigerians coming here to have their baby. Every year, through me, at least I assist 30 women delivering in different hospitals here in the United States. So how can you change this scenario to be so that every Nigeria will benefit from those that have been neglected? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. I really, really appreciate you. And each time I see very sound individuals like you, I wonder what is wrong with Nigeria. How a country can be run by dumb people when they have very brilliant doctors like you. And that's the first thing that breaks my heart, first and foremost. My father-in-law is also a medical doctor. He retired last year. And one of the things he said he still has 10 more years to give because he's a surgeon. And I'm sure there are a lot of you like that. But Nigeria, the space to do good in Nigeria has closed down. If you go today to Nigeria and even go and give your expertise, your colleagues there will be the first to start attacking you or even arrange kidnappers to take care of you. That's how bad things are. About my voice has been like this for 30 years. I started at the University of Lagos as a student activist when it was not fashionable to be an activist. It was under military rule in 1989. I fought alongside the likes of Gani Fawemi, fought along the likes of Wole Soyinka, Femi Falana. I was expelled twice from the university. I spent 6 years at the University of Lagos instead of 4. I was attacked and almost killed in 1994. I went to jail, different parts of Nigeria, 8 different times. When I came to the US, I actually came first to check on my health. And after that, I went to study at Columbia University. And the reason I went to Columbia University, which was an Ivy League school, was that when I was at the University of Lagos, the authorities there claimed that I was not brilliant enough. That was the reason I was causing trouble, that I didn't want to go to class. So I had to come and prove here that I can compete globally. So there's nothing will happen to my voice. I am bringing the same vibrancy that you've seen since 1989. I've not changed. I will check, you can check my hairstyle, the same, since 1989. And it will not change. Nothing can make me change. People ask me all the time, you know, even the guts to declare that you want to run against people who think it's their birthright to be president and then go back to Nigeria. Nobody thought I could go back to Nigeria to go to places like Kano to campaign. I went to the palace of the Emir of Kano and declared that we are wresting power from whomever is in charge. Because why? They said Kano was President Buhari's stronghold. I came to Kaduna, you know, to announce the same thing. I've been in several states in Nigeria and I'm going to go back. You see, this is a point where all of us must decide that we are making a final push against these old, tired brigades in Nigeria that has been ruining Nigeria. Some of them have come 2 times. People accuse me of not having experience, and I ask them, what experience do the people there have? Experience in looting, assassination, killing, deception, and general mismanagement. That's the experience. We have voted for 2 people in Nigeria who were military leaders. We voted for them because they claimed that they were too young when they were in the military. That's why they made the mistakes. So we chose them when they said they were wiser. What did they leave Nigeria now? It left the country even worse than it was when they ran it, when they were younger. So the voice is going to be very clear as long as I'm living. Even if they kill this physical body, my voice is already recorded in the record of history, and nothing will happen to it. Just like you talked about King. We listen to him every day and we get inspired because he has spoken of, you know, he has given us the life of his vision and convictions. And that is what I have tried to do and I continue to do. I'm not in any way comparing myself to Malcolm X or Martin Luther King, but they inspire me. When you talk about death rates, you know, whether it breaks my heart, you know, it's not the death rates that breaks my heart. It's that human life has no value in Nigeria that breaks my heart. You know, people have no respect for you when you're alive. Even when you die, they have no respect for you. So it is that breaks my heart. And when people warn me that, oh, Nigeria, they will kill you. And I said to myself, who is safe in Nigeria? You don't need to be against the government to be unsafe. Because if you take a whole, you know, what they call luxurious bus in Nigeria, heading towards the east, if the bus plunges into a lake on its way to anywhere, there will not even be any attempts to rescue people out of the place. They will just be pointing to the place that, you know, all luxurious bus just coming to that place. You know. They will be pointing anytime they are passing the place, there's still one bus at the bottom of that place. No attempt is made. If fire is happening, I don't know if you have seen some video recently because Facebook allows us to see some of this thing. Fire was gotten in public building. People were using stone, pure water, to fight the fire. And every year you look at Nigerian government budgets, there's always provision for, you know, firefighting equipment. There's provision for everything, but nobody provides those things. The country is made of 2 sets of people, contractors and suppliers. The suppliers do what they call supply and remove, you know, and the contractors are just contractors, they don't build anything. They will pay them 70% of the contract rate in advance. A friend of ours went to Lagos, and I'll stop there, and he was given a contract. He went and borrowed money and finished the contract. When he went back to the Lagos official, gave him the contract. He said, can I get my money? He said, you know, have you finished the contract? He said, yes. He said, who asked you to do the contract? We didn't ask you to do the contract. We just gave you the contract. It's up to you to know how you spend the money because I've already collected the rest of the money. That's Nigeria for you. So, and that has to do with the issue of discipline and corruption, that until you have leaders who are capable of holding people to account, the country is not going anywhere. If we can force contractors in Nigeria to implement the contract they are collecting, Nigeria will be bright at night. But nobody's doing anything, and the contractors, the worse your performance, the more contracts you get. That's Nigeria for you. So So more questions.
All right, thank you. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me quickly acknowledge the arrival of High Chief Atoso Swago Malandibo in the whole of New Jersey. You're welcome, sir. And quickly too. All right, quickly, please. We thank you for your cooperation so far. Please, this is a live event. We are streaming live, and we will advise that we be quiet so that we don't interfere in it. Please, back to you, Father.
All right, thank you so much. I want to thank the audience for keeping the question under 1 minute. We really appreciate that. The next question is going to be from Mr. Philip, and the next one, Honorable Oliver, and the next one, Mr. Frank from Pennsylvania. It's under 1 minute, sir.
Thank you so much. My name is actually Felix Asupo. My name is Felix Asupo. I serve with the Essex County Sheriff's Office, which happens to be one of the busiest, or not one of the, it happens to be the busiest county in the state of New Jersey. I'm also a member of the Essex County Program, which happens to be the most powerful political organization in the state of New Jersey. So, my question is in regards to charity. You have a lot of great ideas when it comes to development, when it comes to taking Nigeria back, moving it forward, economic development, and all those great stuff. But for one thing I know is that without a stable security system, there is no infrastructure or development at this time. Hence, what is your plan in regards to the failed entity called the Nigerian Police Force? And how do you intend to make Nigeria a safe haven, a secure place to attract investors, to make people that actually want to go back home, invest, and make Nigeria a better place than what it is today? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sherry. Now I know those guys have been giving me tickets on the Garden State Highway. Very good. We have designed in our campaign a system that will look at 10-point agenda for the future of Nigeria. And number one, as if you saw it, number one there is security. And you know, security is so important in Nigeria. Is bleeding as we speak. You know, you've heard about the herdsmen farmers crisis. You know, there are kidnappers all over the place. Nigeria is about the only country in the world where somebody can be kidnapped in Kaduna and be driven all the way to Warri and taken to the and no policeman will stop you on the way. And the reason is corruption. We have, you know, high-level security challenges like Boko Haram. You have the herdsmen, but you also have, you know, mid-level security challenges like armed robbery, kidnapping, and all, you know, and also we also have cyber security challenges that we have not even touched at all. Because I'll tell you something, the greatest national security issue in the nearest future will actually be cyber security. And nobody's talking about it in Nigeria. So security is one of our major areas of concentration. In addition to power is electricity. So we have something that we call Spicer Heat, which is, you know, security, power, infrastructure, anti-corruption, economy, restructuring, and we have health, education, agriculture, technology, and also tourism, which is, the list keeps growing. Keeps growing every day. But the point to make to you is that how do we tackle security in Nigeria? First and foremost, it has to do with changing the orientation of our security agencies. For example, when you're talking about Boko Haram, the reason Boko Haram is still flourishing is that army generals in Nigeria don't want Boko Haram to end. That is how they make their billions. And I have done my own research, and as a reporter over these years, I've reported on how they are doing it. They don't want Boko Haram to end. The Fulani herdsmen farmers crisis is flourishing because every time you see a problem flourish for too long, there are security agencies that are aiding and abetting those criminal elements. And the only way we can change and overhaul our security architecture or apparatus is to take out by democratic election this man who is in charge now, because he's not serving as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. He's too weak as the commander-in-chief, both mentally and physically. When you talk about security, right, you are standing there, my brother, and there are thousands, if not millions, of your types out there that could have been recruited to be brought into Nigeria to come and help us look at how to build a new security system. Nigeria is not the only place in the world that had terrible policing system. New York, the NYPD used to be a terrible police department, as you know. I studied it at Columbia University, but one officer came, you know, and I don't remember his name all the time, and looked at it, took the place apart. You know, he started with compensation. Then he started what they did with ComSat, where every departmental leader is asked to come and explain what's happening in their own department every Friday, to explain it. And before you knew it, a new level of accountability was created that made the NYPD one of the best police department in the country today. The same thing that happened to the Nigerian police. Don't forget that the same Nigerian police we are talking about that has failed is the place where they recruit EFCC officials, people like Nuhu Ribadu, Magu. They are police officers. But when you don't have leaders who are accountable, leaders who are innovative, because also policing this has something to do with, you know, technology. And our leaders are still in the analog era. So they cannot lead a digital society. So we must get in place, as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, a leader who has a digital sense. This would affect every sector. You know, they recruit policemen every year in Nigeria. But the recruitment, you can as well just give guns to armed robbers. They don't do no background check. They will just go and ask people, they will ask political leaders to submit lists of people. And before you know it, policemen are worse than the people. I've been in Nigeria now I was there for 2 months. I couldn't go and ask for police protection because that's as good as just going to hire armed robbers. Yes, I'm walking around, my conscience is my greatest protection. People will say, why are you doing like this? Why do you feel safe? I say, policemen, if they are guarding you, 2 things can happen to you. They can call somebody to kidnap you, or they can accidentally shoot you, and nothing will happen. They will just say that, oh, I was playing with my gun and Mr. Shore was passing. And the thing just went off, and that's the end of the story. So we will have to rebuild our security system. There's no question about it. It needs an overhaul. Right. And by doing that, and we bring in accountability, we stop the corruption within the security apparatus in the country will start to see a very, very robust security system that will bring about the kind of peace, the kind of protection, and the rest of mind that people need. Part of when we're doing this, we did some little survey asking Nigerians what they really want. The biggest problem that everybody said they had in Nigeria is health. The reason why we asked them, why health? Because every other thing is affecting their health. Stress. You go from work to the house, there's no electricity. So you can't even sleep at night. And we know that even by common scientific definition of, science teaches us that mosquitoes don't do well where there's air conditioning. Yes, they cannot fly around if it's too cold. But in Nigeria, where would you get the electricity that can power? Sometimes when people even have electricity, it's in this Nigeria that I found out that you can have fake electricity, the one that cannot carry certain devices. You just see the light like this, you think you can plug something in, the thing will just go boom, go down. It's horrible. Yes, and then they have generators everywhere. They even have a name, they call it, I better pass my neighbor. That's what they call it. But guess what? The reason you can't have electricity is that Nigerian leaders are also the ones importing the generators. So they can't be exporting generators and making profit, and you expect them to allow electricity to happen. Whereas the rest of the world has gone even ahead with making renewable energy available. Like we're talking about solar. Tunisia and Morocco are going to be supplying France and Malta with solar energy in next few years, because they are building over 4,500 megawatts of electricity just from solar alone. What is northern Nigeria? There, sunshine doesn't even stop from morning till night. Why are we not building, solar farms in those places, so that even Boko Haram people will come and be working there and have no time to be killing in the name of religion? So the leadership in our place is not the one that knows what they are doing. They don't know what they are doing, and until we have leaders who know what they are doing, we need leaders who are exposed to how things work all over the world. The only exposure our leaders have is to just travel and be smiling in front of other world leaders. You saw what our president came to do with Trump. Trump was so happy about the way he was signing away Nigeria, because he's like, post behind him. You know why? Trump was able to get the president to allow more of the agro products to go to Nigeria. Meanwhile, President Buhari is saying that agriculture is doing very well. But now, US subsidized wheat is heading to Nigeria. They are killing our own local economy. That's why he was very happy, and he posted behind him. He's like, look at this man, I just formalized him. But what do you expect American leaders to do? They are there to protect the interests of their citizens. Our leaders don't protect the interests. I'm sure that President Buhari did not look at what he signed.
That's right.
Yes,
That's true.
I'm sure he has not read it, because he can't read. That's the truth. So those limitations are real when it comes to leadership. And until we resolve them by putting people who can at least read and write, that's the starting point. We are going nowhere. So security, my brother, like I said to you when I saw you arrive, when I arrived here, we are taking you with us next year when we win the election. Now, then you have to come and explain if the police is not working. Then you have to come and explain at the town hall meeting.
Right.
Yes. It will be your responsibility to make our police work.
Thank you so much. To our audience, we have a bottle of water at the back. If you need water, just raise up your hand and I'll get you one. Thank you so much for your time. The next question is from Honorable Oliver. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Honorable Oliver Buku. Current president of Abia State Association, and also former transitional committee chairman of the Sokoto local government in Abia State.
Under which governor?
I'm really not sure about my force. In 2003, like you're doing, I was able to travel to Nigeria to contest for the local government election in my local government. And I'm in Orange here, likewise the rest was a big fundraiser for me to go there. So I've actually tested the Nigerian
Water.
So first of all, I'd like to commend you very much for dabbling into the Nigerian modern waters of politics. And I hope you do well. My question to you is this. Do you have an existing structure in Nigeria? If you do, who are your sponsors?
Thank you. We have existing structures not only in Nigeria but all over the world. And as I've mentioned, we have approached politics in a different manner this time around, in a revolutionary manner. So we are starting as a movement, and that movement has millions of people following it. Who are our sponsors? You all. What we did was also very revolutionary when we started, which is less than 3 months ago. We opened a GoFundMe account online, and that GoFundMe by today probably has reached about $43,000. People are paying into it and are using this opportunity to ask you to donate to us. It's the most transparent way we could approach the funding of the political movement in Nigeria. We are working towards opening a Nigerian bank account where, because a lot of people have indicated that they don't know how to use GoFundMe from Nigeria, a lot of people also don't like GoFundMe because GoFundMe deducts a percentage of whatever we get. But what is interesting is that even with that little amount of money that has been generated so far, we have gone very far because we have come to this with a lot of political capital. What is here today is that the owner of this restaurant did not collect a dime from us. Yes. Yeah. All I needed to do today was drive myself here and pay the toll at the gates, on the Garden State Parkway to get here. And I'm sure that by the time I'm leaving, going by the number of people that would have donated to GoFundMe, my toll would also have been paid to get here. And I've been promised that I will get a bowl of pepper soup and pounded yam. So, see the political capital we are talking about is coming in the road. But I also urge you before you leave to please patronize this place and keep coming back here. I am not doing product endorsement, but someone who has done good to us, we must also pay them back in good coin. Yeah. So, when I hear these questions, you are asking a legitimate question. In fact, one of the what people said to us is, how can you even do anything in Nigeria without knowing so person? But we have made it public, and I'll say it here in front of you that we want to win, or we will win the presidency of Nigeria without going to Obasanjo's living room.
That's right.
Or without going to Abagida's living room in Mina.
Tinubu.
Or going to Tinubu's Bodilon house in Ikoyi. Because there are enough good people in Nigeria who can defeat these people if only we bond together. The reason we don't win election is because we don't vote. The reason we don't vote is that we do not obtain voting cards that empowers us to vote. People will say, well, I'm in diaspora, I can't vote. But you know the power you wield on the people at home because the diaspora is the ATM machine of Nigeria. They're always withdrawing from us. So when you ask them to go and vote for a person, they actually do listen to you. When you ask them to go and obtain a PVC, they listen to you. And some of you can do us a favor. Go home, get your PVC, and spend your next vacation in Nigeria in February. It's always warm in February, whereas it's cold over here. So go and enjoy the warmth in Nigeria and vote for the right candidate, canvass for the right candidate. There's also something that we cannot discountenance. Since I started this, I have not spent a dime on television advertisement because I don't need it. The reason is that I'm a social media operator. Everything we are doing here is reaching more people than you can reach if you place an advertisement in a terrestrial TV station. That's true. We are on Facebook. When we were in London, before we finished our event, 30,000 had watched the live streaming we were doing in London last weekend. By the time we are done from here, probably, some 10,000 people have watched it. No TV station in Nigeria can boast of 10,000 people watching simultaneously. Because why? There's no electricity to even watch the big TV. But you can charge your phone and keep it on with little data and you can watch what we are doing. So please, you can also help us by spreading this message on social media platforms. If I convince you, if I have convinced you, do not stay with it on your own. Espouse that idea to your friends, your family members at home, and when you go to your association meetings, mention it to them that you met a guy who can change Nigeria. I do not, and I've not seen anybody since I've been campaigning who promised to vote for Buhari again. None. I'm not even sure that Buhari's wife will vote for him because she has already indicated that she may not vote for him because of the cabal around him. That is the future that we must fight for in Nigeria. A future that guarantees justice, both electoral, economic, political, and all forms of injustice that have been done in Nigeria can be corrected once and for all. Are we saying that this is possible, that Nigeria will turn into a Dorado overnight? Of course not. But I said to people, if we cannot make Nigeria look like the US, we can at least make it look like Ghana. Yes. Accra, Ghana, they have not had electrical problems in about 2 years. They had some electrical problem within a year, they solved it. The president who was there when they had that electrical problem, which was Maybe they were getting 18 hours per day and they were upset about it, they even had a name for it. They did not vote for him to come back to power. In Nigeria, it's as if the worse, the more our leaders perform terribly, the more we vote for them to come back to power. I even have friends who are supporting Buhari, and I don't know what is wrong with them.
They're uninformed.
Yes, they're informed. Some of them have PhDs.
In the local area.
Yes, but they are supporting, and I ask them, how can you do this to yourselves? And when you support him to come back, you are doing it to others. There are people who are supporting Atiku. Orjiuzu Okalu is supporting Buhari. Because, of course, he doesn't want to go to jail because of the money he stole in Abia State. And I reported a lot on that. And that's how you know that I don't have relationship with him. Orjiuzu Okalu invited me to his house several times in Potomac. Please, you need to come here more. Come and see me. I said, I want to send you to jail. I cannot come and see you. I'll come and visit you when you go to prison. I can come and visit you and remind you that I promise that you go to jail. Now, I don't think he can come to that house in Potomac. He can still come there because I know somebody died there. There was a woman that died there and he was running away from the house.
He's still running.
He's still on the run. Yes. So, these are the kind of characters. And when Orjiuzu Okalu left, he left another even more terrible person in charge of Abia. Theodore, the one that went to Okija at that time,
right.
In his underwear. I was the one who picked out the picture where he was in Okija, holding. These guys are horrible. They went to swear, in Okija shrine. The man was on his underwear holding chicken, live chicken. And how do you expect that people like that will work for the people? It's not possible. Yes. Anyways, that is about structure. Our structure, very solid structures that we have people who are supporting us. We have a lot of volunteers, supporters all over the world, And the same thing is happening in Nigeria. Everywhere we go to, we're getting serious support and people are supporting us. And we believe that a lot of people have turned the corner with regards to Nigeria. For example, I think a lot of people have realized that this whole bullying arrangement doesn't work for them. Or that this ethnic-based campaigning that, the man is from my area, vote for him, he's my ethnic man. People have realized that they've cheated themselves out of progress by allowing ethnicity to declare their sense of reasoning. And they are not going to do it anymore. Otherwise, the whole campaign would have centered around where I come from. But nobody's asking me where I come from. They're asking me questions about what would you do, how many schools can you build, how many kilometers of roads do you want to give us? And if they trust me, which we are seeing a lot of, more and more people are signing up every day. Let me ask you, when was the last time you saw this number of people, Nigerians, sit down to listen to anybody, that they didn't pay you to come? Or that you are not expecting something from the person when, because a lot of us will go to events like this hoping that maybe we can get a contract at home. And it's very important to say that it's not everybody in the diaspora that has good intentions too. A lot of them go from here, they are worse than people at home. Please. Yes. So this is about character. We'll take next question.
Thank you so much. Our next question is going to be from Mr. Frank. Mr. Frank drove all the way from Pennsylvania. For our viewers watching us on V4V TV and all social media, Pennsylvania is like an hour from New Jersey or to New Jersey. We're going to take a question from Mr. Frank and then Engineer Chief Mike, Honorable Victor Ibeka.
Thank you. Sorry, thank you for the opportunity for coming here to speak to us. I also want to thank you for the courage, because we're all tired of the country. Personally, I know how many, it's as if I'm shouldering the whole village. And when you spend $5 grand every month, it's not fun. So my question for you is this: in 2015, I'm an active social media person, defended very well, rigorously, against the current president. And I used to read a lot of Sahara Reporter, and I saw a lot of your campaign against the past president, Jonathan. And I was a little taken aback about it, given the fact that Buhari was in a very, his record in 1993 is just abysmal to see folks supporting him. Kind of, it was very, the social media was an echo chamber. It was very tough. But eventually he won, and what we predicted actually happened today, which is one of the reasons why I don't read Sahara again. When I saw you coming for presidency, I was a little bit, I said, no way. But a friend of mine asked me to come listen to you, and I'm listening to you right now. I think I'm warming up to what you're saying because I'm there with you. And especially what you said about Richards, it's nothing to write about. But two questions I have, three rather, you answered one of them. Given the state of Nigeria's political apparatus and structure at the moment, I believe that even if you have two Obamas with the current NAC, there's nothing you can do with the arrangement. No matter if you have the most brilliant idea, passing laws there is like a great law. What are you going to do about that? How do you manipulate the House of Assembly into getting things going on? That's one. Two, I read an article where you talked about minimum wage of 100,000 naira for folks working and 50,000 for NYC. Personally, given how current companies in Nigeria pretty much trying to stay above the water, how do you expect to make that happen? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your preamble. This is something that we have to talk about all the time. And I want to make a clarification once again that I have, over the last 30 years, objectively engaged with Nigeria politically. And it has always been that whenever there is the opportunity to stand for what is right, I will take a stand. And sometimes it can be very inconvenient. I understand that some of you didn't like Sahara Reporters because you thought that Sahara Reporters was campaigning for Buhari. That was not the case. You cannot find anywhere, and I challenge anybody, not you alone, where I campaigned for Buhari, but I had dedicated myself to campaigning against Jonathan by exposing the corruption in his government. With the same ferocity that we are doing it now against Buhari, the reason was simple. I was very, very instrumental to Jonathan coming to power. And that is what made a lot of you to fall in love with Sahara Reporters. The way we were exposing the Yaradua illness and the cabal that was behind Yaradua, which was what made it possible for Jonathan to come to power. So when Jonathan came to power, I was disappointed, I will say it again, that Jonathan had allowed himself to be used the way he allowed himself to be used, or engaged in the kind of governance that he did. And most of the problem we had came from the SC because, and I keep asking, I just came from the southeast. I did not see any road that Jonathan built in the southeast. I did not see any agricultural farm or any factory he built in the 5 years that he was in power. And I'm still wondering, what was it about Jonathan that people were missing anywhere in Nigeria? But that's a conversation for another symposium discussion in the future. The political structure that you are talking about, there is no political structure in Nigeria. What we want to do is to defeat the cannibalism of politics in Nigeria. The National Assembly that you're talking about is not a political structure in the sense of a political structure or an arm of government. It's a coven of thieves. Most of the people in the National Assembly, including the former Abia State Governor, they are in the Senate. They are collecting retirement benefits and also collecting allowances. Where Saraki is, until recently, he used to collect allowances as a former governor and is still collecting allowances as a senator.
Take it back!
Well, he stopped.
Take it back!
Yes, he stopped because we exposed them. That's the only reason they stopped. And you can't be sure that they have stopped, by the way. You can't be sure. No, it's true. So, what I'm saying to you is that this Senate or the National Assembly is meant for Nigerians. Nigeria is not meant for the Senate. I want to say it and I'll repeat it here again. A lot of people don't like when I say it. They said it sounds dictatorial. I'm not saying that I will just do it. But my preference would be for Nigeria to have a unicameral legislative arm. That we should abolish the Nigerian Senate and just have the House of Reps, where there's one person comes from every local government, and we can make the House of Representatives a part-time job. If you don't show up, you don't get paid.
Right.
You know, we were doing a comparison between U.S. senators and Nigerian senators. U.S. senators must be jealous when they know what Nigerian senators are taking home. Do you know that the allowances of the senator per month